She announced my yes to the entire family before I'd even opened my mouth. The leather chair in Mr. Henderson's office creaked under my weight, a sound so familiar it made my chest ache. I'd sat in this exact spot 3 years ago when we finalized Grandma Eleanor's living will, her gnarled hand gripping mine, her voice a whisper. This house has seen our family's joy and sorrow for 80 years, Maya. Promise me you'll keep its heart beating. I'd promised. I hadn't known then that keeping its heart beating would feel like performing CPR on a ghost. Today, the chair felt colder. Across the polished mahogany desk, Mr. Henderson adjusted his glasses, the document before him looking deceptively thin for something that held the weight of a lifetime. My sister Chloe sat rigidly beside me, her cream-colored Chanel bag perched on her lap like a shield. She hadn't looked at me since we walked in. The only sounds were the hum of the HVAC and the frantic thumping of my own heart. I twisted the silver ring on my right hand, the one Grandma gave me for my 16th birthday, worn smooth from years of nervous fidgeting. As you know, Eleanor was very clear in her wishes, Mr. Henderson began, his voice gentle. He cleared his throat. To my granddaughter, Chloe Ann, I leave my collection of Limoges porcelain, my pearl necklace, and the sum of $50,000. Chloe's fingers tightened on her bag strap. I saw the flicker in her eyes, not gratitude, but calculation. $50,000 wouldn't cover the down payment on the Scottsdale condo she and Mark had been eyeing. Mine I knew because she'd texted me the Zillow link 3 times with "Dream Home." I'd replied with a thumbs up emoji each time. What else could I say? My own apartment's kitchen faucet still dripped no matter how many YouTube tutorials I watched. Mr. Henderson turned the page. And to my granddaughter, Maya Elizabeth, I leave the entirety of my real property, namely the residence at 421 Oakhaven Lane, along with the residual estate. He looked up, his gaze softening. There's also a sealed letter for you, Maya. She insisted I give it to you privately. The air vanished from my lungs. Chloe's head snapped toward me, her perfectly sculpted eyebrows vanishing into her honey blonde hairline. The house? She breathed, the words barely audible. She left the house to you? I couldn't speak. My throat sealed shut. All I could do was nod. My eyes stinging. I thought of the last 22 months, the 45-minute drives after my library shifts, the smell of antiseptic and ginger tea in Grandma's kitchen, the way her hand felt like tissue paper when I helped her to the bathroom at 2:17 a.m. I remembered the exact time because I'd checked my phone, exhausted, wondering if I'd make it to work by 9. Chloe had visited twice, once for Christmas, once when Grandma was hospitalized with pneumonia. Both times she'd taken selfies in front of the fireplace with captions like, "Family is everything," and tagged Grandma, who didn't know what Instagram was. I deleted the notifications quietly each time. That's not possible, Chloe said, her voice rising half an octave. She turned to Mr. Henderson, her smile brittle as spun sugar. There must be a mistake. My grandma and I discussed this just last spring. She said the house would stay in the family, all of it. She knew how much Oakhaven means to me. She placed a hand over her heart, a gesture so theatrical I half expected a director to yell, "Cut!" My whole childhood, the tire swing, the lilacs by the porch. Her voice cracked on cue. Mr. Henderson's expression remained neutral, the picture of professional sympathy. The will was updated 6 months ago, Chloe, after Eleanor's last hospital stay. We have video documentation of the signing. She was lucid, clear, and very specific. Chloe's smile vanished. She stood abruptly, the chair legs scraping hardwood like nails on a chalkboard. I need air. She didn't glance at me as she swept out, heels clicking a sharp, angry rhythm down the hall. I sat frozen, the weight of the house pressing down. The creaky third step on the back porch where I'd skinned my knee at 7, the water stain on the guest room ceiling that looked exactly like Australia, the lilac bush Grandma planted the year I was born. Mr. Henderson slid a cream-colored envelope across the desk. My name was written in Grandma's looping cursive, the ink slightly smudged near the Y. I traced the letters with my thumb, the paper thick and expensive. I wanted to open it right there to hear her voice one last time, but Chloe was waiting outside, and I knew this was only the first ripple. Take all the time you need, Maya, Mr. Henderson said softly. No rush. But there was always rush with Chloe. Always. I shoved the letter deep into my canvas tote, edges crinkling against my laptop. Me stepping into the hallway felt like walking into a freezer. Chloe leaned against the water cooler, scrolling her phone, face carefully composed. She looked up as I approached. Well, she said, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. Her nails were perfect nude pink. Congratulations, homeowner. Must be nice. Chloe, Don't, she cut me off, holding up a manicured hand. I'm happy for you, really. I know how much you sacrificed. She lingered on the word, letting it hang between us, heavy with implication. You were there, I wasn't. And now you're being rewarded for it? Before I could form a neutral reply. Something safe, something that wouldn't ignite the fuse. Her phone buzzed. Her entire face softened. A real smile, the kind I hadn't seen aimed at me in years. It's Mark, she whispered. She answered, voice melting into honey. Hi, baby? Yes, just finished. No, it's fine. Really? Wait, what? You did? Oh my God. She spun away, hand flying to her mouth, shoulders shaking with silent laughter, tears glistening. For one wild second, hope flickered in my chest. Maybe this joy would soften her. Maybe we could navigate this with grace. She turned back, glowing, all earlier tension erased. Maya, guess what? Mark got the VP promotion and... Deep breath, eyes sparkling. He proposed, right there in his office, had the ring in his desk drawer the whole time. My stomach dropped through the floor. I forced a smile, cheeks aching. Chloe, that's wonderful. Congratulations. I reached for a hug. She stepped back, already moving. I know, right? Perfect timing. She grabbed my arm, grip surprisingly strong. And you will not believe where we're having the wedding. Hank came to me the second he said yes. It's the only place that makes sense. Sentimental, beautiful, home. She squeezed my arm, eyes wide with expectation. We're getting married at Grandma's house next June. You'll say yes, won't you? It's what she would have wanted. The world tilted, fluorescent lights hummed into a roar. I stared at my sister, the one who'd complained about the old lady smell during her last visit, who'd called Oak Haven quaint but impractical over brunch last year. Now, 10 minutes after learning I inherited it, she was claiming it for her wedding. Chloe, I managed, voice hoarse. I just found out today. I haven't even been inside since the funeral. I need time to... Time? A short, sharp laugh. Maya, it's been 3 weeks. Grandma would have wanted us to celebrate life, not mope. Thought, what better way to honor her than a wedding? Family gathered under the oak tree where she taught us to swing. Her voice cracked again. Real or rehearsed, I couldn't tell. Please. For me. For her. There it was. The emotional judo I dodged since we were kids. Twist the knife of family duty. Press on the bruise of my grief. Watch me fold. I'd folded my whole life. Let her have the last cookie. Took blame for the broken vase. Drove an hour in rain to deliver her forgotten college essay. Easier than conflict, but this was different. This was Grandma's house. My house. The only place that held every happy memory of a childhood fractured after Mom left. I opened my mouth to say no. To mention the leaky roof I'd been researching contractors for. The property taxes that made my palms sweat. The fact that my savings account had $837.21 in it. But the words stuck. Because in that moment, Chloe's eyes were glistening, and she looked exactly like the 7-year-old who'd crawled into my bed during thunderstorms, whispering, "Don't let the monsters get me, Maya." I need to think about it, I whispered. Chloe's smile didn't reach her eyes. Of course. Take tonight. She pulled out her phone, tapped the screen, handed it to me. A Pinterest board titled Oak Haven Wedding Dreams filled the display. String lights on the porch, floral arch on the lawn, cake table in the sunroom. I scrolled. Dates stamped on pins. The oldest, March 14th, 2022. 2 years ago. My blood went cold. She'd been planning this long before Grandma's diagnosis. Long before the will was updated. See, Chloe said softly, taking the phone back. It's meant to be. She kissed my cheek, a quick, dry peck, and walked away without another word. I stood alone in the sterile hallway, the lemon polish smell suddenly nauseating. Fumbled for my keys, hands trembling. Drove 3 blocks before pulling into a Sunoco station, vision blurred by tears I hadn't felt coming. I finally opened Grandma's letter. The paper smelled faintly of her rose perfume and mothballs. My dearest Maya, if you are reading this, I am gone, and you are now the keeper of Oak Haven. Do not feel burdened by this gift. It is yours because you saw the soul of this house, not just its walls. You watered my ferns when my hands shook too much. You listened to my stories about your grandfather without checking your phone. You loved this old place with a quiet, steady heart. That is why it belongs to you. Do not let anyone make you feel guilty for accepting it. Not even Chloe. She has her path, and you have yours. Protect your peace. Protect your home. All my love, always, Grandma. I read it 3 times. The words seeped into my bones like warmth. Then I looked at my phone. A text from Chloe lit the screen. Chloe. Heart's so excited to start planning with you. I'll send caterer options tomorrow. Love you. I didn't reply. Typed Chloe. I need to talk about this tomorrow, and deleted it. Typed I'm overwhelmed. Can we pause? Deleted again. My thumb hovered over block. Pathetic. I was 32 years old, holding a letter from the only person who ever truly saw me, and I couldn't even send an honest text to my sister. I put the phone face down on the passenger seat. The truth sat heavy in my gut. I didn't want this wedding, not because I didn't love Chloe, but because Oak Haven wasn't a venue. And it was the smell of rain on hot pavement from the driveway. It was the scratch on the doorframe from where Grandpa measured our heights every birthday. It was the quiet. And Chloe's Pinterest board, with its perfect centerpieces and rented chivalry chairs, felt less like celebration and more like erasure. But saying no, that felt impossible. Because in our family, saying no to Chloe had always come with a price. And I was terrified of what that price would be this time. I started the car, the engine rumbling like a question I didn't know how to answer. The house key, cold, heavy, real, sat on my keychain. Waiting. The drive home felt like moving through syrup. Every stoplight was a lifetime. I kept replaying Chloe's voice, the shift from honeyed expectation to that brittle, wounded tone. Hoarding. The words stuck in my teeth like grit. And I parked crookedly in my apartment complex lot, the Honda's bumper kissing the curb with a soft thud. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I sat there for 10 minutes, forehead pressed against the cool steering wheel, breathing in the smell of old coffee and my own anxiety. When I finally trudged upstairs, my cat Miso wound figure 8s around my ankles, purring like a tiny engine. I sank onto the couch, still in my work slacks and blouse, and just held him. His warmth was the only real thing. My phone lit up. Not Chloe, Aunt Carol. Maya, sweetheart. Chloe just called me, bubbling over with joy about the wedding at Oak Haven. Isn't it just perfect? Grandma would be so touched. I've already started brainstorming centerpieces, peonies, and garden roses, just like her garden. Don't worry about a thing. We'll handle all the details. You just focus on being the beautiful maid of honor. I stared at the screen. Maid of honor. She hadn't even asked. She just assumed. Assigned me a role in the play she'd already cast, directed, and set designed in her head. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. Aunt Carol, I haven't agreed to anything yet. I need time. I typed it. Deleted it. Typed, the house needs repairs first. Deleted again. What was the point? She just echoed Chloe. We'll hire people. Mark's bonus covers it. Don't be difficult. I shoved the phone under a cushion. Miso jumped onto my lap, kneading my thigh with needle-sharp claws. I know, buddy. I whispered. I know. Sleep was a myth that night. I tossed, sheets tangled around my legs. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw it. A sea of white chairs on Grandma's lawn. A hired bartender clinking glasses where her bird feeder hung. Strangers tracking mud across the floorboards she'd polished every Saturday for 60 years. I saw Chloe in a lace gown, radiant, accepting hugs from relatives who'd barely acknowledged me at the funeral. Isn't Maya generous? Someone would whisper, letting us use her house, as if it were a loan, as if my grief were a minor inconvenience to her celebration. By 5:30 a.m., I gave up, made coffee, burnt because my hands were still shaky, and sat at my tiny kitchen table staring at the property tax bill I'd pulled from my filing cabinet. $4,200 due in November. The roof repair estimate from a guy I'd found on Nextdoor, $8,500 minimum. My library salary, $48,000 a year before taxes. Rent, $1,350. Student loans, $320. I did the math on a napkin. The numbers blurred. There was no wedding venue budget. There was barely a keep the lights on budget. And Chloe's Mark's bonus will cover it felt less like generosity and more like a Trojan horse. Once they started fixing things for the wedding, the loose porch step and the leaky roof, who would own those changes? Would they expect reimbursement? Would Aunt Carol show up with a clipboard critiquing the outdated kitchen while sipping Chardonnay? I drove back to Oak Haven at dawn, needed to see it in daylight, needed proof it was still mine. The morning sun hit the porch columns just right, casting long, familiar shadows. I let myself in again. This time, I moved with purpose. Checked the master bedroom ceiling. Yep, a faint yellow water stain blooming near the corner. Tested the third porch step. It groaned ominously under my weight. In the basement, I found the old ledger Grandma kept tucked beside the furnace. May 12th, 1998. Fixed leaky faucet. Cost $18.75. Felt good. October 3rd, 2005. Repainted sunroom. Chloe helped. Made a mess. Worth it. My throat closed up. She documented every repair, every memory. This wasn't just property. It was a diary written in wood and plaster. I was wiping dust off the piano lid when headlights swept across the living room window. My heart hammered. Chloe. But the car that pulled up was a faded blue minivan. Aunt Carol. She climbed out, floral sundress fluttering, a wicker basket hooked over her arm. She didn't knock, just let herself in with a key I'd forgotten she still had, a spare Grandma gave her for emergencies. She froze when she saw me, hand flying to her chest. Maya, goodness, you startled me. I thought the house was empty. Her smile was tight, eyes scanning me like I was an unexpected stain on the rug. Aunt Carol, hi. I kept my voice neutral, but my palms were damp. I'm just checking things over. Of course, dear. Of course. She bustled past me into the kitchen, setting the basket on the counter. Inside, lemons, a jar of honey, a loaf of banana bread still warm. Brought you something. Thought you might be hungry. Grief makes you forget to eat. She patted my arm, her fingers cool. Then she turned, hands on hips, and surveyed the room. Needs a good airing out. And look at this dust. She ran a finger along the windowsill, held it up. Chloe mentioned you were feeling overwhelmed. She said it like it was a diagnosis. Sweetheart, it's understandable, but you can't let this house sit empty. It's not healthy. For you, or for the memories. She opened the fridge, peered inside. Goodness, still got Eleanor's preserves. Should probably toss those. She reached for the jar. Don't. The word came out sharper than I intended. Aunt Carol's hand stilled. She turned slowly. Maya? That's Grandma's. I'm not ready to throw it out. My voice cracked on Grandma. Aunt Carol's expression softened, but it didn't reach her eyes. She closed the fridge door with a gentle click. Of course. Silly of me. She walked over, placed both hands on my shoulders. Her perfume, Chanel No. 5, same as Chloe's, was cloying. Listen to me. Chloe is my niece. You are my niece. I love you both fiercely. But Chloe, she's been through so much. The stress at her firm, the pressure to perform. Mark's promotion is a huge deal. This wedding, it's her anchor. Her happy thing. She squeezed my shoulders. And this house? It's just wood and nails, Maya. It's the people who fill it with meaning. Letting Chloe have her day here. That's how you honor Eleanor, not by locking the doors and sitting in the dark. Tears pricked my eyes. She made it sound so simple. So selfish of me to resist. It's not just wood and nails to me, I whispered. I know, honey, I know. But she didn't. Her eyes had already drifted to the backyard through the window. Imagine it, string lights in the oak tree, aisle of rose petals right there. She pointed. Chloe in white, you walking beside her? She sighed, a dreamy sound. It would be perfect. Eleanor would be crying happy tears. She pulled out her phone. Let me just snap a few pics for the Pinterest board. Chloe will want to see the lighting. Before I could protest, now she was framing shots of the porch, the lawn, the sunroom. Click, click, click. Each shutter sound felt like a violation. Aunt Carol, please. I haven't said yes. She lowered the phone, her smile tightening at the edges. Haven't said yes? Maya, what is there to think about? It's your sister's wedding. And your grandmother's home. It's poetic. She stepped closer, voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Between us, Chloe's been fragile since the proposal. Mark's travel schedule is brutal. She needs this to feel certain, secure. You wouldn't want to be the reason she doubts her big day, would you? She tilted her head, eyes wide with faux concern. Family sticks together, especially after everything with your mother. The unspoken words hung between us. You were the quiet one, the easy one. Don't start being difficult now. I felt 8 years old again, sitting at this same kitchen table while Aunt Carol told me Chloe got the bigger slice of cake because she had a harder day at school. The old script played in my head. Be the good one. Don't cause waves. Swallow it. My jaw ached from clenching. I need to talk to Chloe directly, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Alone. Aunt Carol's smile didn't falter, but her eyes went cold. Of course, dear, of course. She gathered her basket. At the door, she paused. Just remember, a no today might feel like protecting yourself, but it could look an awful lot like abandoning your sister when she needs you most. She patted my cheek, a gesture meant to be affectionate, but it felt like a brand. Think on that. She left. The house felt colder after she did, and I stood in the silent kitchen, staring at the spot where she'd stood. My reflection wavered in the dark window pane, pale, tired, eyes red-rimmed, abandoning. The word echoed Chloe's. Don't expect anyone to understand. They were building a wall around me, brick by brick, with guilt and family duty as the mortar. And the terrifying part? A tiny, traitorous voice inside whispered, maybe they're right. Maybe you are being selfish. I walked to the sunroom, sank into Grandma's reading chair. The crossword puzzle was still there. I picked up the pencil. 5-letter word for resolute. Stead. I wrote it in carefully. Then I pulled out my phone, opened my text with Chloe, scrolled past the wedding Pinterest link, past the congrats on the house. Texts from cousins I barely knew. Found the last real conversation we'd had 3 months ago. By me. Grandma's having a tough day. Fever. I'm staying with her tonight. Chloe. Sorry. Hope she feels better. Mark and I have that client dinner. Text me updates. Me. Will do. Chloe. That was it. No, can I bring soup? No, call me if you need anything. Just a heart emoji. A digital placeholder for care. I typed a new message. My fingers trembled. Me. Chloe, I need to talk. Not over text. Can we meet for coffee tomorrow? I need to be honest about the house. I hit send before I could delete it. Stared at the screen. Waited. 1 minute, 2. The 3 dots appeared. My breath caught. Then vanished. Reappeared. Vanished again. Finally, Chloe. Of course. Tomorrow at 10? The usual spot? So glad we can talk. Love you. The love you felt like a period at the end of a sentence she'd already written. I didn't reply. Just closed my eyes. Mom, the pencil still clutched in my hand. Outside, a bird sang in the oak tree. For the first time since walking in, the house didn't feel like a burden. It felt like a witness. And witnesses don't lie. They just hold the truth. Quietly until someone is ready to hear it. I wasn't ready to hear what Chloe would say tomorrow. But for the first time, I knew I had to listen anyway. Even if the truth broke something between us. Especially then. The coffee shop smelled like burnt beans and false cheer. I'd chosen the corner table, the one with the wobbly leg I'd propped up with a napkin. But of course, Chloe slid into the opposite chair without noticing. She was all soft edges and pastel linen, her engagement ring catching the morning light like a tiny accusation. You look tired, she said, not unkindly, stirring honey into her matcha latte. I still sleeping at the house? No, my apartment? I wrapped both hands around my mug. The ceramic was too hot. Good. The pain felt honest. Chloe, about the wedding. She stilled. Her smile didn't vanish, but it tightened at the corners, like a photograph developing too fast. I knew you'd come around. I already texted Mark. I haven't come around. The words came out quiet but solid, like river stones. I can't do it. Not next June. The roof needs work. The foundation inspection is scheduled for next month. I haven't even changed the locks yet. It doesn't feel ready. I don't feel ready. Silence. Just the hiss of the espresso machine, the clink of a spoon. Chloe set her spoon down with deliberate precision. Tap, tap. She didn't look at me. Instead, she smoothed the linen tablecloth, her thumb tracing a non-existent stain. So, after everything, after I sat with you at Grandma's funeral and held your hand when you couldn't stop crying, this is how you repay me? My stomach dropped. That's not... You think I don't know you've been sleeping there? She finally met my eyes. Hers were bright with unshed tears, but her voice stayed low, controlled. Aunt Carol saw your car there Tuesday morning. She was worried. Called me right away. She leaned forward, elbows on the table, voice dropping to a whisper that felt like a threat. I defended you, Maya. I told her she's grieving, she needs space. But now? Now you're using grief as a weapon, against me. I'm not... Mark's mother is flying in from Seattle next week. She asked specifically about the venue. I told her Oak Haven was confirmed. What am I supposed to tell her now? That my sister changed her mind because she's... overwhelmed? She spat the word like it was dirty. Then her expression shifted, softened. She reached across the table, her fingers brushing mine. Cold. Maya, look at me. I did. Her eyes were glistening, but there was steel underneath. Remember when I failed my bar exam? You drove 3 hours in a snowstorm to bring me soup and sit with me while I cried? You didn't judge me. You just... held space. Her thumb stroked my knuckle. This is my moment. My one perfect day. And you're the keeper of the one place that means anything to me. Don't take that away from me. Please. The memory hit me like a physical blow. I had driven through that snowstorm. My wipers had frozen twice. I'd sat on her lumpy couch for 6 hours while she sobbed into a pint of mint chocolate chip. I'd felt useful. Needed. Now sitting across from her, I felt like a prop in her story. The loyal sister who always shows up. The script was so familiar I could recite my lines. Of course. I'm sorry. Don't worry about a thing. My throat tightened. I wanted to say it. God, how I wanted to say it. To have her look at me with real warmth again. To feel like the good sister. But Grandma's letter burned in my pocket. Protect your peace. I love you, I said, my voice barely audible over the coffee grinder. And I want you to have a beautiful wedding. But not there. Not yet. Maybe. Maybe in 2 years. When the house is truly mine. When I've had time. Chloe's hand withdrew. The warmth vanished. She sat back, folding her arms. The transformation was chilling. The vulnerable sister vanished, replaced by the corporate litigator I'd seen shred witnesses on Zoom calls. Nana, 2 years? A dry, humorless laugh. Maya, be realistic. Mark's career is accelerating. We'll be in Singapore by then. This is now or never. She pulled out her phone, not to check it, to show me. A text thread. Her and Mom. My mom. The woman who'd left us with a post-it note on the fridge when I was 9 and Chloe was 12. Gone to find myself? Love you. We hadn't heard from her in 18 months. Until now. Chloe angled the screen. Chloe. Mom, big news. Maya's letting us use Oak Haven for the wedding. Mom. Oh, honey, that's wonderful. I'll finally get to see that old house again. Maya's so generous. Chloe. She is. She's really stepping up for family. My vision blurred. The word swam. Generous. Stepping up. She'd weaponized our mother's ghost. Made me the villain in a story I hadn't agreed to. You told her? I whispered. Ah, you told her before you even asked me? She's still our mother, Chloe said, tucking the phone away. Her voice was gentle, but her eyes were flat. She's trying. This wedding, it could be a bridge. For all of us. She stood, slinging her bag over her shoulder. The chair legs scraped harshly. Think about what you're really saying no to, Maya. It's not just a venue, it's healing, it's family. She dropped 2 20s on the table, more than enough for both drinks. Keep the change. You look like you need a new lipstick. She walked out without looking back. I sat frozen. The barista wiped down the counter nearby, humming. Normal life. Outside, a bus hissed to a stop. My hands trembled so violently I knocked over my untouched tea. Amber liquid pooled across the table, dripping onto my lap. I didn't move, just watched it spread. She told Mom. The betrayal was a physical ache behind my ribs. Mom hadn't called me, hadn't texted me to say congratulations on inheriting the house. Only Chloe. Only when there was something to gain. My phone buzzed, then buzzed again. And again. Aunt Carol. Maya, Chloe just shared the wonderful news. I'm crying happy tears. Cousin Lena. So excited for you guys. Oak Haven will be magical for the wedding. Uncle Dave. Way to step up, Maya. Eleanor's smiling down on you. A family group chat I'd muted years ago, Henderson Hearts, was exploding. Chloe had posted a photo, the Pinterest board screenshot of Oak Haven draped in fairy lights, with the caption, My sister is a saint. She's generously opening Grandma's home for our wedding next June. So blessed to have family who puts love first. Hashtag family first. Hashtag Oak Haven wedding likes poured in. I comments, hearts, fire emojis. So generous. Maya, you're an angel. Eleanor would be so proud. Each notification was a tiny hammer blow to my chest. I was being buried alive in praise for a decision I never made. I tried to type a correction. Actually, I haven't. My thumb hovered. If I posted that now, in this thread buzzing with joy, I'd look petty. Spiteful. The sister who ruined Chloe's big moment. Aunt Carol would call it drama. Chloe would cry. Mom would side with Chloe. She always did. The script was already written. I was just the reluctant actor expected to deliver my lines with a smile. I stumbled out of the coffee shop, the bell jingling cheerfully above me. Sunlight felt like sandpaper on my skin. I walked 10 blocks without direction, my damp slacks clinging to my legs. When I finally looked up, and then I was standing outside the public library where I worked. My shift didn't start for 2 hours, but the familiar red bricks, the smell of old paper through the open doors, it felt like sanctuary. I pushed inside. Mrs. Gable, the head librarian, was reshelving biographies. She took one look at me, pale, tea-stained pants, hollow eyes, and her kind face crumpled with concern. Maya, honey, you all right? I shook my head, tears finally spilling over. Can I just sit in the quiet room for a minute? She didn't ask questions, just nodded, her hand warm on my shoulder. Take all the time you need, I'll cover the front desk. The quiet room was exactly that. No computers, no chatter. Just floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the community garden and shelves of worn poetry collections. I sank into an armchair, pulling my knees to my chest. Saw for 10 minutes there was only the rustle of leaves outside, the distant chirp of a sparrow. My breathing slowed. Then my phone vibrated on the floor beside me. Not a text, a call. Mark. I almost didn't answer. But what if Chloe had collapsed? What if it was an emergency? I swiped accept. Hello? Maya? His voice was warm, familiar. We'd shared Thanksgiving dinners, watched Chloe drag us both to terrible rom-coms. Hey, hope it's okay I'm calling. Yeah, it's fine. A pause. I heard keyboard clicks. He was at his desk. Probably should be working. Chloe mentioned you two had coffee. She seemed upset. My jaw tightened. Did she tell you why? She said you're hesitant about the house. And I get it, truly. It's a big ask. He sighed, and for a second he sounded like the guy who'd helped me change a flat tire last winter. Human. But Maya, she's been planning this in her head since we got engaged. She showed me the Pinterest board, cried talking about walking down the aisle where Grandma taught her to ride a bike. Another pause. Softer. She's fragile right now. The promotion, the pressure. She needs this to feel certain. And honestly, his voice dropped. I need it too. To prove to her, to myself, that I can give her the life she deserves. I closed my eyes. Don't make me the villain in your love story. I'm not trying to be difficult, Mark. I know you're not, he said quickly. And I swear we'll handle everything. Repairs, cleanup, insurance. My company has a vendor list, top notch. You won't lift a finger. Think of it as us taking care of the house for you, giving it new life. He chuckled, but it sounded strained. Chloe's already texting caterers. or she's so happy. She's so happy. The words hung between us, a simple, devastating truth. My refusal wasn't just about logistics or grief, it was threatening her happiness. And in our family's moral economy, that was the highest crime. I need to think, I whispered. Of course. No pressure. But there was. It vibrated through the phone line, thick and suffocating. Just know that whatever you decide, I respect you. Chloe does too. She loves you. He hung up. I sat in the silent room, the phone cold against my ear. She loves you. The words felt like a cage. Because love shouldn't feel like a debt. Shouldn't come with strings woven from guilt and Pinterest boards and resurrected ghosts of absent mothers. I looked out the window at the garden. A little girl was showing her mom a dandelion, her face alight with wonder. Pure, even uncomplicated joy. My phone buzzed again. A new notification from Henderson Hearts. Chloe has added Sarah, Mark's mom, to the group. Then, immediately, Sarah. Maya, darling. Chloe showed me pictures of Oak Haven. It's perfect. I can't wait to meet the sister who's making my son's bride so happy. The walls of the quiet room didn't feel quiet anymore. They felt like they were closing in. I stood up too fast, my chair scraping loudly. Mrs. Gable peeked in, her eyebrows raised. I forced a smile. I'm okay, really. But as I walked back to the front desk, my legs felt like lead. The library smells, paper, lemon polish, dust, usually comforted me. Today they felt like a reminder of everything I couldn't control. Words on a page, stories with predetermined endings. And I was trapped in one where the good sister always said yes. Even when it broke her. Even when it erased her. I logged into my work computer, my fingers numb. The cursor blinked on the empty search bar, waiting for a query, a question, an answer. I typed 3 words, then deleted them. Typed again. How to say no. The screen stayed blank, because some questions don't have answers in any book. Only in the quiet, terrifying space between one breath and the next. And I wasn't sure I had the courage to take the next one. The cursor blinked. How to say no. I deleted it. Typed boundary scripts for family. Deleted that too. The search bar felt like a confessional booth with no priest. Mrs. Gable appeared beside me, placing a chipped mug of chamomile tea on the desk, steam curled like a question mark. Drink this. You're pale as printer paper. Her voice was low, meant only for me. And she didn't wait for thanks. Just squeezed my shoulder, a firm, grounding pressure, and walked away. I wrapped my hands around the mug. The heat seeped into my bones. For 3 minutes, I just breathed. Then my phone lit up again. Not the group chat. A direct text from Sarah, Mark's mom. Sarah. Maya, dear. Chloe mentioned you might be feeling overwhelmed about the house logistics. Please don't worry your pretty head. Mark's already contacted his friend who owns a property management company. They'll handle all repairs, cleaning, even landscaping. Consider it our gift to you both. You just show up looking beautiful on the big day. P.S. Do you know if the master bedroom has an ensuite? I'd love to stay there the night before to help Chloe get ready. I set the phone down like it was radioactive. Mine, his friend who owns a property management company. They weren't just planning a wedding. They were planning a takeover. And Sarah asking about the master bedroom. The room where Grandma took her last breath, where I'd held her hand as her breathing slowed. That felt like a violation so intimate I had to swallow bile. I typed back, fingers stiff. Sarah, thank you for the kind offer, but I haven't confirmed the venue yet. I'll let Chloe know when I've made a decision. I hit send. Immediately regretted the when. It implied there was a decision to be made. There wasn't. There couldn't be. Not like this. 2 dots appeared, then vanished, reappeared. Finally, Sarah. Oh, of course. No rush at all. Just so excited. Chloe's heart is set on it. She showed me a photo of the lilac bush, said that's where Mark will wait before the ceremony. Oh, isn't that sweet? She'd taken a photo of the lilac bush, without asking. I stood up so fast the chair screeched. Bathroom, I mumbled to Mrs. Gable, who was reshelving nearby. She just nodded, her eyes saying, I see you without a single word. Locked in the single-stall restroom, I splashed cold water on my face. Stared at my reflection in the smudged mirror. Dark circles, lips pressed into a thin, bloodless line. You're being unreasonable, the old voice whispered. It's one day. Let them have it. Be the bigger person. But another voice, quieter but sharper, pushed back. They're not asking. They're announcing. They're decorating your grief with fairy lights. I pulled Grandma's letter from my pocket, crease now, edges soft from handling. Protect your peace. I traced the words with my thumb. Yeah, then I did something I hadn't done in 20 years. I called my therapist. Dr. Evans's voicemail picked up. Maya, it's me. I need to move our session up. Something's happening. With my sister, the house. My voice cracked on house. I hung up, shame heating my cheeks. Even asking for help felt like admitting defeat. Back at the desk, a patron waited. A young woman with a toddler balanced on her hip. A stack of picture books clutched to her chest. Hi, she said softly. We're looking for books about sharing. She glanced at her daughter, who was chewing the corner of the very hungry caterpillar. Her cousin is visiting tomorrow. First time meeting. I want to prepare her. Something in her voice, the gentle worry, the intentionality, unlocked a dam inside me. Tears welled, hot and sudden. I blinked hard, turning to grab tissues from the box under the desk. Of course, I managed, my voice thick. We have some wonderful ones. My hands trembled as I pulled should I share my ice cream? And the rainbow fish. I placed them gently on the counter. These are good starters. Gentle. The woman's eyes softened. She saw it. The rawness. Rough day? She asked quietly. I just nodded, unable to speak. She covered my hand with hers for a fleeting second. You're doing great, she whispered. Then she herded her daughter toward the children's section. No judgment, just kindness. I stood there, staring at the spot where her hand had been. The simple human connection, a tiny anchor in the storm. My phone buzzed. A calendar notification, dentist appointment, 3 p.m., I'd forgotten. And the mundane reality of it, the promise of fluoride and a lecture about flossing, felt like a lifeline. I packed my bag with numb efficiency. As I zipped my tote, Mrs. Gable approached, holding a small paper bag. Leftover scones from the Friends of the Library bake sale, she said, tucking it into my hand. Her gaze was steady, kind. Maya, whatever's happening, you don't owe anyone an explanation for taking care of yourself. Remember that. She didn't ask for details, didn't offer unsolicited advice, just saw me. Truly saw me. And in that moment, her quiet validation felt more powerful than all of Chloe's performative tears. The dentist's office was sterile and quiet. I sat in the waiting room, flipping through a 2-year-old People magazine, the words blurring. My phone vibrated incessantly in my bag. I ignored it, numb until a call came through from an unknown number with a Scottsdale area code. Mark's office. My stomach clenched. I let it go to voicemail. 2 minutes later, a text from Chloe. Chloe, Maya, Mark's assistant just called. Said you hung up on him? He's worried and hurt. Is this about money? Because if it is, we can talk about it. We want this to be fair. I stared at the screen. Hung up on him? I hadn't even answered. But of course. In Chloe's narrative, my silence was aggression. My boundary was a personal attack. I typed slowly, deliberately. Me. Chloe, I did not hang up on Mark. I was at work. I have not agreed to the wedding at Oak Haven. I need you to stop telling people I have. Please, send. The 3 dots appeared instantly. Then, Chloe, wow. Okay, so this is how it's going to be? You're going to make me look like a liar to my future mother-in-law? To our entire family? After I told everyone how supportive you were? Chloe, fine, do what you want. I guess I'll just have to tell Mark his dream wedding is off because my sister's too selfish to share a house for one day. Selfish. The word landed like a stone in my gut. I shoved the phone deep into my bag, my hand shaking. The dental hygienist called my name. Maya Henderson? I stood on unsteady legs. For 40 minutes, I focused only on the scrape of the scaler, taste of mint paste, the hum of the light above me, a blessed silent void. When the dentist said, all clean, just floss better, okay? I almost laughed. If only life had such simple fixes. Walking back to my car, the afternoon sun felt different. Sharper. I unlocked the door. I tossed my bag on the passenger seat and froze. Tucked under the windshield wiper was a single perfect white gardenia and a note written in Chloe's looping script. For the sister who taught me what love looks like. Don't forget who we are. My breath hitched. She'd been here. While I was inside getting my teeth cleaned, she'd driven across town, found my car in the crowded lot, left this beautiful, manipulative token. The gardenia smelled exactly like the ones Grandma grew by the porch. Chloe knew that. She knew. I sank into the driver's seat, the flower resting on my lap. Tears streamed down my face. Not of sadness, but of sheer, exhausting frustration. She'd turned my grief into a prop, my love into a weapon. And the worst part? A tiny, broken part of me still wanted to call her, to say, okay, fine, have the wedding. Why? Just to make the hurting stop. Just to have my sister back. I drove home in a daze, parked, sat in the silence. Then I did something small, something just for me. I took the gardenia inside, placed it in a tiny bud vase on my kitchen windowsill. Not as a surrender, but as a reminder. This is how she loves. Beautiful, calculated, conditional. I opened my laptop, not to search for scripts, not to draft texts. I opened a new document, typed a single line at the top, Oak Haven House, repair and maintenance plan. Beneath it, I started a list. 1, contact roofing contractor for estimate. 2, research property insurance requirements for events. 3, change all locks. 4, draft formal letter regarding property use. My hand still shook. But with each typed word, the shaking lessened. This wasn't about Chloe anymore. This was about me. On about the promise I made to a woman whose voice I could still hear in the creak of the porch swing. The list wasn't a wall. It was a foundation. And for the first time since Mr. Henderson's office, I felt the faint, fragile stirrings of something I hadn't felt in weeks. Not peace, not yet, but purpose. I saved the document, closed the laptop, and went to feed Miso, the gardenia's sweet scent, a quiet, complicated ghost in the room. The gardenia wilted on my windowsill by Tuesday. I didn't throw it away. I let it dry, its petals curling inward like a closed fist, a quiet monument to beautiful, calculated gestures. Wednesday morning, I drove to Oak Haven with Joe, a locksmith whose hands were stained with grease and whose kindness felt uncomplicated. The old brass key turned for the last time. Now the new deadbolt clicked into place with a sound so final, it vibrated up my arm. I stood on the porch afterward, palm flat against the freshly painted doorframe. Sage green, the exact shade Grandma mixed herself every spring. For the first time, the silence inside didn't feel like emptiness. It felt like space. Space to breathe, space to be. I sent one email, clear, calm, professional. Cited the structural report, insurance hurdles, the emotional weight of the space. Offered alternatives, venue research help, Grandma's recipe box, even the pearl necklace. Hit send at 9:03 a.m., hand steady, made tea, waited. Reply arrived at 11:47 a.m., no subject line. Maya, I'm disappointed, not in your decision, in you. I thought you were stronger than this, but I guess some people prefer to live in the past. Don't worry, we'll figure it out. Mom, we always do. Chloe. No heart, no love you, just cold dismissal. I read it once, closed the tab. The hurt was there, a familiar ache behind my ribs. But it didn't swallow me. Beneath it was something new, solid, certainty. I hadn't chosen a house over my sister. I'd chosen my peace. And that wasn't selfish. It was necessary. The fallout was quieter than I'd feared. Aunt Carol's voicemail, Family doesn't do this to family. Deleted after 10 seconds. In Henderson Hearts, I posted one message. Oakhaven will not be available as a wedding venue. I wish Chloe and Mark joy. Please respect my privacy as I honor Grandma's legacy. Muted the chat forever. Some cousins sent quiet texts of support. Others vanished. I learned who my people were through small acts. Mrs. Gable leaving soup on my desk. Neighbor Ben fixing my leaky faucet without asking. Dr. Evans untangling guilt in session. Boundaries aren't walls, she said gently. They're gates. You decide who enters, when, and on what terms. I wrote it on a sticky note. Placed it on my bathroom mirror. Chloe's wedding happened in October at a Napa vineyard. Sarah posted photos publicly. Chloe was radiant in lace, laughing under a floral arch. Beautiful. But in one candid shot, she stood alone by the ceremony site, staring at her phone, smile not reaching her eyes. I felt sorrow, not regret. For the sister who believed a perfect venue could fill a hollow space. For years spent performing love instead of building it. I closed the app. Wished her genuine happiness. Went back to sanding the porch step until my hands were raw and the wood was smooth. 6 months later, spring arrived fiercely. Lilacs bloomed violent purple by the porch. I'd repainted the sunroom, fixed every leak, planted ferns in Grandma's old clay pots. Oakhaven wasn't a shrine anymore. It was a living home. My home. I hosted quiet book clubs for library patrons, monthly tea for lonely seniors. Real people, real conversations, no fairy lights, no rented chairs. The scratch on the doorframe where Grandma measured our heights? I left it. A scar with a story. Last Tuesday, a small package arrived. No return address. Inside a velvet box. A note on cream paper. Maya, Mark, and I named our daughter Eleanor. She has your eyes. I'm sorry it took me so long to see yours. Chloe beneath it, a photograph. A newborn swaddled in white, tucked in the blanket's fold, a single pressed lilac blossom. Tears fell on the photo. Not sadness. Not victory. Release. I didn't call, didn't text. Some bridges take time, but the path between us no longer felt blocked by rubble. Just quiet. Waiting. I placed the photo beside Grandma's on the mantel. Afternoon sun warmed the wood. Miso purred at my feet. Outside, a bird sang in the oak tree. I breathed deep. Air smelled of lilacs, fresh paint, possibility. The house was no longer a burden. It was a foundation. And I was no longer the girl who folded to keep peace. I was the woman who built it. One repaired step, one honest word, one quiet boundary at a time. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It was full of everything I'd fought to keep. And for the first time, it was enough.